Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a little pretty jewelry tray out of air dry clay. So today is the first time that I'm using air dry clay, so I'm really excited to see how it feels like. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube at this point and I'm really excited to get my hands on it. So what's the difference between air dry clay and your regular clay? So your regular clay or your pottery requires it to be fired in an oven before it can be used or to get it hardened. But air dry clay, all you need to do is just really make it and leave it out to dry and it's ready. So that's the most exciting thing that I found about air dry clay. But really, is it as easy as it looks to me? Let's find out. My name is Dhivya Sahadevan and this video is part of my DIY segment. I have a lot of DIY activities and upcycling projects on my channel. So if you're into DIY, do check that out. So without any further ado, let's get started. So literally the products that you need are the modeling clay or the air dry clay. I have a 2 kg packet here. That's all that I could get, but I'd suggest if you're using it for the first time, choose a smaller pack. You need a rolling pin and you need some basic tools like something to, something sharp. You need a cutting knife. You need some water to make your slurry. Slurry is nothing but just mixing your clay with water, and yeah, and you need a scale and just like I said, some basic tools. So let me just open this pack, and when I open the pack, I can see that there is this really hard slab of clay. It's really hard, and it's pretty difficult to actually pull out the clay. I honestly did not expect it to be this hard. It's a struggle at this point. Yeah, so I'm going to pull out some amount of the material that I need to create my tray, and it's really hard, and I need to kind of work with it to make it a little bit more soft and workable. So spend a little time to kind of get the material a little flexible and eased into. And if you feel at this point it's really hard, you can even add a little bit of water just to make it a little easier to work with. So now that it's got a little softer and easier for me to work with, I'm kind of rolling it out into a slab. And as you roll it out, keep flipping it over because there is a tendency that it's going to stick onto your table. And as you pull it out, you're going to kind of, change the shape of it. So make sure you keep flipping it and rolling it out. Don't worry too much on the marks and imprints. You can easily kind of smooth it out. So I'm going to roll it out into this thickness for the tray of my, jewelry tray. And don't make it too thick, but don't make it too thin either. I'm then placing an impression of, how big I want my tray. I'm using a small saucer plate here, but you can use anything that, of your desired size to just help me cut out the circle in a more cleaner sort of fashion. And I'm good with this. I like, the size. I don't want it really big, so this is the size I'm going for. So with the remaining clay, now I want to make a rim or an edge for my tray. And so the first thing I need to do for that is kind of roll it out in a really thin pipe sort of shape. And I think the challenge over here was to get the entire pipe to be a uniform thickness, so get it as uniform as you can. And personally for me, it's a handmade item. It's not supposed to look like it's made in the machine and looks exactly perfect. So I don't mind a little bit of ununiformity, if that's a word. So I'm just going to not stress about it too much. So just measure your, the size that you want and kind of cut it out there. And like I said, just get it as uniform as you can, and try and get the size to, uh, be the correct size before you start trying to get them to fix together. So you want to be, close enough. And I think the best thing again about clay is that it's always fixable unless it's hard. So if you're not happy with something, just you know, uh, just do it again. So it just needs a little bit of patience, especially when you're working with air dry clay. It's a little bit more difficult to work with. If you've worked with regular clay, you'd know. So once my measurements are right, I start scoring my tray. So when I say scoring, it's kind of creating this impressions on the tray. So you're going to create these tiny impressions on the tray, and you're also going to create it on the other side, so on my pipe as well. So what this does is it creates that friction, and when you try to attach it, it attaches better. So those grooves kind of fix together better than when you try to kind of stick to smooth surfaces together. You're going to try and roughen up the surfaces so they fit better together, and they're just a better fix. So when you're trying to again attach two ends together, it's always a good idea to give it an angular cut rather than a straight cut. Yeah, it's again an easier and a cleaner sort of fix. So this is what I mean by the slurry. The slurry is nothing but some clay just diluted in water to create a creamy sort of texture. It works almost like a glue. So when you use the slurry to fix two items or two surfaces together, it creates a glue sort of um, it acts like a glue because it's again clay. So when it hardens, it's going to harden your surfaces together. So like I said, I've kind of created these impressions on my tray as well as on my pipe, and now I'm going to apply the slurry to the tray, and then I'm going to place my pipes over it. Make sure you're getting the two roughened surfaces together. And at this point, you need to really go slow because this is going to take a little bit of time. So you want to kind of just place it and just use your fingers to kind of smooth it out, give it the shape that you want, and just be really patient with it. So once you think you've got it in place, then you can start trying to merge the two parts together. And how you do that is use any kind of merging tool. So if you have pottery hand building tools, you can use that. I didn't have it, and I'm just using the end of my spoon here to kind of merge the two parts together. So you're just kind of pulling the clay from the edges of your pipe into the tray, the base of the tray, which is kind of going to make it look seamless. You don't want it to look like you've attached two parts together, but you want it to kind of merge into your tray so it looks like one solid piece. So again, like I mentioned, take the time to do this. It's going to take a little bit of time, but see, like I saw over here, this little section which looked like it could need a little extra strength. So just take a tiny bit of clay and just add it on to any place where you feel like you need to reinforce it with a little bit of extra strength, and then go ahead and merge it together. Use the slurry to kind of smoothen out any edges and roughen surfaces to give it a little smooth finish. And now I've kind of completed merging my entire rim. It's looking good. Take your time to kind of smooth it out until you're completely happy with it. And another thing you can keep in mind while doing this is make sure you do it on a surface where you can leave it out to dry, because after you've kind of really worked on this clay and you try to pick it up, if you've used a lot of slurry in the process, there are chances that your tray is going to be pretty wet and it may be a little difficult to pick up from the surface. So it's a lot easier if you do it on a surface where you can just let it dry and pick it up after a few days. So now I'm happy with my tray and I'm going to create this center piece which looks like a cactus, and for that again I've used a little bit of clay, and this has hardened a bit, so that's the reason I'm adding a little slurry and again working with a little bit before I start kind of molding my shape. So first we will make the center of the cactus. So I'm rolling it out in a sort of conical shape. So another thing you want to keep in mind when you're making your structures is make it balanced. So if you're going to be attaching things to a surface, or say I want to add few branches to my cactus, make sure that your center stem is strong enough to kind of hold your branches. So you cannot make a thin center stem and put heavier branches on it. Your structure is just not going to be balanced and centered, and it's likely that it's not going to go well. So just keep those small things in mind when you're kind of thinking and designing your structure. So I'm adding this little branch or stem to my cactus, and this is the little piece. And how you attach it is exactly how we saw the attaching of the rim to the tray. So I'm going to score my two surfaces just to create those ridges, and then apply my slurry and just hold it in together. And then what you want to do is kind of merge it. You can either use your finger or just any kind of merging tool. Take your time and kind of give it a good fix. This just makes sure again your items and your structures are well attached, and you don't have after it dries you don't want pieces kind of falling off. So that's the reason you need to make sure that you attach it well, and then use the slurry to kind of smoothen out any rough surfaces and give it that finished look. So now very quickly let's create the second branch. So this is how my cactus looks. I think it's pretty cute. It's come out really nice, I think. And I'm now going to attach my cactus to the center of the tray. Let me just bring it closer. So yeah, so just find your point where you think you want to attach it. And then again, we're going to do the same thing. Score both your surfaces. Make sure you don't go all the way through, of course. And so I'm scoring the bottom of my cactus. And if you think after your molding, if your part is become too soft because you've added too much water, or it may be a little difficult to work with. So in that case, just give it maybe an hour or so to just come back to it, so that it kind of hardens a little bit before you work with it. So if it becomes a little too soft, just give it a few hours or minutes to kind of harden, and then you can come back and it may be easier to work with. So just a closer look, on how, when I'm saying merging, this is what I'm actually doing. I'm just kind of pulling in the clay and attaching it to the second piece, and then smoothing it out with the slurry. So this is my product after I've completed it. I'm happy with this. So now I want to completely dry it, and now you can see it's a sort of pale grayish color. And once it dries, it's going to be a pure white, and it's going to set really hard. So till then you want to leave it undisturbed. You can maybe move it around a little bit, but don't try to pull it out. It may kind of stick to the surface while it's drying, but that's normal. Once it's completely dry, it's going to come off the surface, but the drying time really depends on where you're from. If it's in a moist atmosphere, it may take more time. For me, it took around 2 to 3 days, and as you can see here, this is now completely dry. It's like bone dry. It's hardened. It feels really sturdy, and you can really hear that tap when you kind of knock into it. So now from here, it's really up to you how you want to decorate or design your piece. I'm using some chalk paint from Annie Sloan, which I have, and any kind of fixative to seal in your paint. So I'm going to give this brown shade to the bottom part of the tray. Just going to use a brush to kind of mix in my chalk paint and then apply it to my piece. And I think the best part about using chalk paint, as opposed to, you can even use regular paint, but chalk paint is just, it's so easy to work with again, and it dries really fast. So within minutes, I could see the, paint drying. So it also gives that really nice texture, the chalky texture, which is really nice. So I've just painted my tray. Just look around for any white spots and make sure you give it a good coverage. So once that's done, I'm going to paint the cactus, and I did not exactly have green. So this is actually Annie Sloan's, I believe it's Svenska blue. So that's what I'm using on my cactus today. So now that both my cactus and tray are done, they're dried, I'm just going to add a little bit of designs to this. Again, this is totally up to you. You don't have to follow my design. I know it may be too basic, but I'm just going to put some dots on my tray. And you can decide, whatever you want to do, or you can leave it as it is. I'm just going to give it a very hand painted sort of look. I don't want it to look symmetrical. I'm just going to add in a few random dots here and there. And then to my cactus also, I want to give it a little bit of kind of character, so I'm just adding in some designs to my cactus. I'm happy with this. So I'm now going to add in a little bit of finishing. I think if we add a nice gold rim, it's going to look really pretty. So I don't have gold paint. I have this gold powder, which I need to mix with the solution to make my gold paint. So I'm just going to use that, and it gave a really nice sort of muted gold color, which I think is really pretty. And I'm going to use this on my edges just to give it that, final touch, if you can say. And so this is how it looks once I've completed all the edges. I think it's looking really cute and pretty. And now for the final finishing, of course, is I'm going to paint the bottom as well. So that just, cleans up your piece, and there's no messy bottom side. So I'm just going to completely coat this in golden. And then you want to just leave it all out to dry. And once it's completely dry, you want to make sure you seal your piece, because that's very important to protect your piece, protect the paint, make sure they last forever. So I'm using this spray fixative, but you can use anything. You can use lacquer, matte finish, whatever works for you. So I'm just using this fixative and giving a thin, even coat all over my piece, and then going to leave it to dry. And this is my piece once it is done. I think it's great for a first attempt. It's cute. It's come out way better than I had expected. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be having some beautiful pieces of my jewelry on display on this piece. So what are my reviews of the air dry clay? So honestly, it was not as easy as I expected. It was really hard to work with, and it took a little bit of getting used to. But once I did, I think it gets a little easier. But if you are a first timer and going to try your hands on air dry clay, just be prepared for some really hard muscle activity. But other than that, I think it's a really convenient material to work with, and there's a lot of flexibility and freedom that associated with the material. So all you have to do is really make your item using your hands, and just leave it out to dry, and it's that easy. So that's really the selling point for me. I think it's awesome. So anyway, let me know what you think on the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll see you again next week with a new video. Till then, take care. It's me, Dhivya, signing out. My name is Dhivya Sahadevan, and this video